Hi there. In this tutorial I'll be going over render passes in Maya 2018. Now I have a scene already set up. I have a foreground object, a set of weights, background object which is a wall, and my character. And I also have a floor plane. So what we'll be doing is using Maya render passes. So let's have a look. To get into the render passes viewport, you need to click this little button next to the hypershade up here. Clicking that there, and you'll notice I already have some render layers already set up, a few layers. Okay, so and I'll just go through those. By default you'll have your beauty layer or your beauty pass, and this shows everything in your scene. And if I go through my passes, you'll be able to see. There we go. I have an alien diffuse separated, alien shadow, background diffuse, foreground diffuse, and ground. And I notice my background diffuse is no longer working. So let's have a look. Why is that? Let's have a look what we got in our collection. Oh, the benches are no longer in there. So I'll just click those and I'll remove them. And I actually changed the name, so I better drop them back in. I actually, what I've done is gone and grouped them. There we go. I grouped each of them into a group, and I called it wall. So there they are. So that's now operational. There we go. Okay. So let's recreate this. So I'm going to delete these and we'll start from scratch. Bye bye. And we'll get rid of alien diffuse. So to create a layer, you click the little plus button here and you give it a name. I'm going to call my one alien diffuse pass. Now you can name these whatever you wish as long as it makes sense to you. Now, as soon as you've created your first layer, right click and go create collection. And now I can click on the collection box and I can start to populate the box here. So it's the alien pass. So I'll look for my alien over here. There it is. And I will click add over here on the right. There we go. Now I need to also add lights so as I can see something. I'll add those. Okay, let's test it by clicking the little eye. There we go, that's working. Fantastic. Let's create the next one, which I'm going to call my alien shadow. Shadow pass. Right click, create collection. And once again, I need to add my elements. So it'll be my alien, wall, my weights, my floor, and the spotlights. Now I could separate these into, say, maybe just the shadow against the back wall, or perhaps just the floor. And you know what? We'll actually do that. Let's make this one just the back wall shadow. Okay, so I'll remove the floor and I'll remove, oh, there's my wall. I'll remove the weights. So now we should only get the wall shadows. Now, here's an important aspect when creating a shadow pass. You need to right click on your collection and you need to go create material override. This is important. Click that once, and now we need to reach into here, override material, click the little checker button, and coming down into your Arnold tab, you can scroll through here and find the AI shadow matte, this one. Click that, and now we should be good, and we can check this by clicking on our shadow pass, and there we go. We can see our alien against the background with his shadow. Now let's test this. Let's actually go up here and we'll open up the Arnold renderer. And if I click render play here, we should be able to see, there we go. That's our diffuse alien. Fantastic. I'll stop that. Now let's try our next one, which was our shadow pass. Let's try this one. Push play, and we wait. Now, one aspect of a shadow pass, normally it would be all black. You're seeing the internal parts of the mesh here, because this was a Boolean operation. Don't worry about that too much. But to see a shadow pass, you need to click this little checker button up here. This will show you the alpha. And now I'm seeing the shadow pass. You notice how it looks? The shadow would normally be black, but it's in fact white. Everything's reversed. Don't worry about that. We can swap that over when we move into our compositing package, such as Nuke or After Effects. But you can see it's working. Remember, if it's all black, you need to click this button here. Okay, I'll stop this. By the way, you need to push stop when you're rendering. Once you've finished rendering. And okay, we'll leave that for now. I'm just going to minimize this a little bit so I can keep working over here. Okay, fantastic. Let's create a pass for the weights, the foreground objects. So I'll go another plus. I'll call this one FG for foreground underscore weights. Okay. Hit enter, right click, create collection. I will take the weights and the lights and I'll add those, and then we can check it, and there we go. Let's create another one. Plus, this one will be for the floor. The floor pass. So we'll get the floor only. And right click. I'll create a collection, and this time we're going to add the floor and these two. Okay, and we'll go add. So now we should just have a floor. So as you can see, we've got all these different elements in different layers. Now you can separate these into as many as you wish. I tend to separate them into foreground versus background and your characters. Okay, just make sure that you have your character on its own layer like that. So it will be all black behind it. This way in compositing you can move them around in post-production. Okay, now one more pass that I will introduce you to is an ambient occlusion pass. So I'll create one more. And I'll call this AO pass. And I'll right click again, create collection, and this time with the ambient occlusion we don't need to add lights. So I'll just select all of my objects and I'll add them. There we go. And we need to create an override. This time we're going to use a shader override. This one. Not the material, it's got to be a shader. Okay, now we'll come into our override shader and we will select down under shader ambient occlusion, the top one. By clicking that, we can now come in and test it. Here's our, let's have a look what we get here. I think we need to click this one. We'll see what we get. Oh, we still have this one checked. Notice that. So we'll be rendering out the wrong pass. We need to come down here. That's better. Now we'll do it again. Okay, that's much better. That's what an ambient occlusion should look like. Okay. Now one more thing, after I've completed this ambient occlusion pass, while we're in the Arnold render view, I'll just mention to you that we have this little camera icon down the bottom. If you click that, it'll save a snapshot of your image down the bottom left. Now if I were to come in and say do a pass of the top one here, which is our beauty pass. Remember, this is everything. It's a beauty pass. Just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to sit for the next, say, 2 or 3 minutes waiting for this to render out the entire piece. We could actually. It's 29, 30%. Yeah, why not? While this is rendering, what we're going to do is actually create another snapshot with a little button on the bottom right here, and we can actually load images into the bottom. And this is for comparison, so it's an easy way to compare. You can go back and forwards and compare. So I'll show you that now. I'll just stop this one and I'll save that. Now we have 2 images in here. Okay, I could add more, but if you right click one of these images and go set as A, this is A, and then you'll notice a little line, horizontal line come through. You can move that line like this. Okay, so you can get a really good comparison. Okay, I'll just move that there. Okay, so I'll close the render view. Now, one more thing I'd like to mention. We also have what are called absolute overrides. Okay, you can create a collection, a pass, and you can create what's called an absolute override. And we'll do that for the timing, because if you consider this shot, I'm just going to close this for a moment and push play. This particular shot, it's animated, so the character jumps up into the air. Okay, so you'll notice only the character is jumping. There's nothing else animated in this scene, and also the camera is not moving. So we could just render out a single frame for the background, and even a single frame for this foreground element, and we would only need to render out our alien over, what's that, 65 frames. But you'll notice the alien has the shadows being cast onto the back wall, so you'll also need to render out those shadows. Okay, you won't have to render out the background object though, just the shadows. So taking that into account, let's incorporate what are called overrides. So an absolute override for a pass, a rendering pass. So to do that, first let's have a look at our rendering settings. Here are our rendering settings, and you'll normally come through here and you'll set it up. I'll set it to EXR. You could set that to Targa as long as it has an alpha channel. EXR is a bit of a heavier weight file format. It also has Z depth, which you would use in compositing. That's another discussion. We come down and you'll notice here the frame extension is now, I've changed from single frame to multiple frames. The bottom one I selected. I also check where it's going to output my images to. If you need to change that, you do that here, edit, change image directory. Okay, let's keep moving down. I'll leave frame padding at 1. Now here, this is important, the frame range. Now, by default, it's 1 to 1. Now, we want to render out everything, just one single image, because we only need one image for our floor, one image for our weights, one image for our background. Okay, so we'll set everything to 1, and you have to have your scene beauty pass selected up here to do that. Now we'll do the override. So let's do an override. So we're going to create the override for our alien in here. So we'll open up our collection, right click the collection, and we'll go create absolute override. Okay, there we go, we've got an override. Now over here on end frame, you'll be able to right click in here. Sorry, let me just highlight it. Well, we need to have it highlighted, by the way. Yeah, that's important. You need to have that particular pass that you wish the override to be on selected. I had my beauty store selected. Come down to it, select it. I have my override, and then over here you'll notice now I can right click and create absolute override. If I have this one selected and I right click, it's no longer available. That's important. You have to make sure you have it selected, right click, create absolute override, and now I can put in here 45, or sorry, 65 was it? My frame range. And it will create frames only for that, for the alien. And the other ones, for example, coming down to here, they're still set at just a single frame. One frame for the background here. Oh, this is my shadow pass. And one frame for my floor pass. So the floor will just do a single frame. Okay, this alleviates rendering out extra frames, guys. Okay, I hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing your progress. Thanks for watching.